Before I start on this video, I got an email from Sun Electronics out of Miami, Florida. Their website is sunelec, E-L-E-C, S-U-N-E-L-E-C, sunelec.com. This is where I've purchased all my solar panel stuff over the years. Sale ends next Friday. All solar panel modules below 27 cents a watt by pallet quantity, unless listed otherwise. 285 watt panels, one solar panel for 27 cents. What is that? 285 divided by 0.27. 285. Okay, what am I doing wrong? Stand by. Yeah, what am I doing wrong? Should be multiplying instead of dividing. So 285 watts times 0.27 cents per watt is $76.95. You can buy a very large, again, 285 watt solar panel for 77 bucks. Now you do have to pay for freight, but it's not that bad. I've done it before. If you have any kind of solar panel needs, I'm here to tell you, sunelec.com. I get nothing for telling you this. It's not like a promotion. I just found this place a long time ago. They have deals all the time. They have A-class panels, B-class panels, and C. And what that means is, by the way, an A panel rating essentially means if it's call it a 200 watt panel, that's what it's supposed to be, a 200 watt panel, it may produce 210, 215 watts, even though it's listed at 200. That is an A. If it's a 200 watt panel and it produces 200 watts, it's considered a B. If it's a 200 watt panel and it's about 190 watts of actual output, C panel or C rating. That's all it means if you happen to run across that. I just want to tell you, if you're into that kind of thing or thinking about it, unbelievable prices. I'm serious. Incredible prices down there. So, time to get on to what I came here to do on this video. Zero Hedge has an article, naturally, and it says 70% of millennials have less than $1,000 saved for buying a house. One of the frequent reasons cited for the failure of the U.S. housing sector to rebound to its pre-recession levels is the lack of household formation among young American adults, and specifically the unwillingness or inability of millennials, which last year overtook baby boomers as America's largest generation. So again, my previous video was talking about Zuckerberg wanting to give, the government should give everybody a universal basic income, especially for the millennials, right? They don't even have $1,000 saved for buying a house, and yet they have now overtaken the baby boomers as America's largest generation. Uh-oh. They don't have money to buy a house? Again, someone explain how a house is going to, the price is just going to keep going up when these people don't even have enough to save up any kind of down payment whatsoever. You're taking someone and saying, we understand you're living paycheck to paycheck. We want to put you in this big giant house, but don't worry. I know you heard of those things called closing costs. We'll just wrap that into the deal, or the schmuck seller will take care of it, or the bigger schmuck government, which means you, the taxpayer, will foot the bill through FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, whoever, and we'll get everybody in there. No down payment. Just get in there and start making payments. Right. So here's a question, Mr. Government. What happens when they have a unexpected not consequence, but issue arise in their life? Whether that's a medical expense, whether that's a car problem, they have to go buy a new car all of a sudden, lost their job, whatever. One paycheck away from being broke, and all of a sudden they're broke, and now they're behind on their mortgage payment. How is that a good idea? Well, the government response would be, well, J-Snip, see your last video you did about the universal basic income. Because if they had the universal basic income, they could still make their payments. They got $2,000 a month coming in. Maybe it'll be per person. And I'm assuming it's $2,000 a month. I'm making that number up, but that's probably what it would be. So maybe, you're married? You get $2,000? Your wife gets $2,000, or your spouse. Oh, but wait a minute, my religion allows me to marry, remember that stupid TV show, Sister Wives? I've married, 5 women. All 5, we're citizens. We're all adults. We all get 5, 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000, 12,000 coming into this household, baby. Yes. If you had $12,000 a month coming in to your house, again, you had, multiple wives, whatever. That's a nice chunk of change, no? $12K a month? That's some big numbers at the end of the year. What the hell you want to even work for at that point, right? Even a husband and wife, we're going to bring in $4K a month combined. Oh, we're going to go buy new cars. The auto. We don't need to do cash for clunkers part 2. No need for cash for clunkers 2.0. We're just going to give all these people so much money to go out and buy all these brand new cars. Tesla will actually maybe make a profit for once in its life because there'll be a bunch of people wanting to go green with all the new money. They'll go green, get it like Jay Snip did with his electric Leaf. They're going to get the Tesla. They don't want the little cheap model. Hey, we're getting $4K a month for free. I'm not going for the stupid Leaf. I'm going for the big boy. I want the $80,000 Tesla, okay? And that's what the American lifestyle would do. That's what it taught us. Go big or go home. And I want the Tesla. I don't want to be smart with my money. I want to blow it as fast as I can. Right, not going to work. Anyways, what does this say? Okay, let me just kind of start over. One of the frequent reasons cited for the failure of the U.S. housing sector to rebound, that doesn't mean all-time high prices. It just means the housing sector buying, generally speaking, how healthy is the market. That's what he's talking about. So one of the frequent reasons cited for the failure of the U.S. housing sector to rebound to its pre-recession levels is the lack of household formation among young American adults, and specifically the unwillingness and I think it's more of this one, inability of millennials, which last year overtook baby boomers as the largest generation, to move out of their parents' basement, to stop renting, and purchase their own home. Now, a new study from Apartment List confirms the underlying problem, and that is nearly 70% of young American adults, those aged perfectly in the millennial range, 18 to 34 years old, said they have saved less than $1,000 for a down payment. This is similar to what a recent Go Banking survey found last year, according to which 72% of young millennials, those between 18 and 24 years old, had $1,000 in their savings account, and 31% had zero. A sliver, 8%, had over $10,000 saved. Good for those guys, huh? And girls. Of the older millennials, those between 25 and 34, 67%, this is surprising, had less than $1,000 in their savings accounts. 33% had nothing at all, and 15% had over 10K. Again, good for those ones, right? But that's, as you can see the data, that's the exception to the rule. And you can't rely on 15% of this giant, healthy, sized millennial group. No, 15% is not going to cut it. We need like 70 to 80% who have 10K saved up or more. Now we're talking, but that's not the case. As the Wall Street Journal frames it, with most millennials having saved virtually nothing for a down payment on a home, many will face steep obstacles to homeownership in the years ahead. It also means that the U.S. housing market, traditionally the bedrock of middle-class American wealth, may never recover to the levels seen during the prior economic cycle, which incidentally peaked as the housing bubble burst, scarring an entire generation with the vivid memories of what happens when millions of Americans rush to overpay for homes. But hold on, I got to say something about that last sentence. That's not quite fair. Americans didn't necessarily rush to overpay for homes. You're a family, or you're about to start a family. Again, millennial. I'm in my late 20s or early 30s. All right, we got my job. My wife's got her job. We're good. We're ready. We're going to start a family. We got to get out. Okay, mom and dad, we love you. I've been living here since in my 20s. We got to get out. We got to get out. We got to stop paying rent. We got to go get a house and do this. Oh, prices are kind of high right now. Life doesn't stop because prices are high right now. Everyone still has to move. We got to get out. Things are moving, shaking. We got to do it. So wherever the prices are is where they are. So I have to say that I don't think people rushed out to go, buy an overpriced house. In all fairness, it just happened to be superly duperly overpriced at the time, kind of like it is right now. Which is not to say that U.S. housing is languishing. On the contrary, as we showed earlier this week, in the first quarter of 2017, the number of California homes that sold for $1 million or more totaled 10,562, which was up from 11.7% year over year. And by the way, the highest on record for a first quarter. It'll probably end well, right? I'm sure. However, while the 1% or even 10% of America's wealthiest buy and sell trophy real estate amongst each other, or to Chinese oligarchs, with impunity, creating another bubble in luxury real estate for the vast majority of America, its middle class, homeownership is becoming an increasingly elusive dream, forcing many to contend with renting indefinitely. And going back to the original study, the culprit appears to be the inability or unwillingness or America's youth to save, because according to Apartment List, even senior members of that age group are falling short. Nearly 40% of the older millennials, those aged 25 to 34, who by historic measure should already own or be a few years away from homeownership, said they are saving nothing for a down payment each month. Here's the punchline. The vast majority, some 80% of millennials, said they eventually plan to buy a home. But 72% said the primary obstacle is that they can't afford it. So tell me again why housing is just going to continue to balloon? Right. That's the largest group overtaking the baby boomers now? That's correct. Again, how's that housing price going to stay up there? I don't think so. Well, millennials, if you haven't gotten into cryptocurrencies, you may want to hurry as fast as possible. You're going to be able to come up with a down payment pretty quick. Anyways, that's a pretty big obstacle, as the study's creator admitted. He said it's encouraging that millennials do want to buy homes. It suggests that they are delaying forming households, but they're not giving it up, said Andrew Wu, Director of Data Science at Growth at Apartment List. The biggest reason they aren't buying is because of affordability. This is how America's most troubled generation sees the problem in their own words. Katie Peterson, a 22-year-old graphic designer in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, said she doesn't expect to start saving for a down payment for another 5 years or so. Quote, I barely have enough savings to cover my car if it were to break down, she said. Peterson says she pays $9.75 a month in rent for a small one-bedroom apartment, which is about 1/3 of her paycheck, leaving little room to save. Once I get settled in my career and settled in my family, I think buying a house would be reasonable. It would, but good luck finding something that is affordable enough for the bank to actually give you a mortgage. As for the main reasons cited by millennials why they are unable to save any money, these should be familiar to regular readers of Zero Hedge and regular followers of old JSNet4, because I guarantee you I've already discussed this a million times. They include, reasons why? They include, ready? Student loan debt, rising rents, and the slow starts many got to their careers during the last recession. Furthermore, with many living in vibrant urban centers with ready access to restaurants, bars, and entertainment, saving seems less urgent. Furthermore, many are children of the affluent baby boomer generation, and some expect their parents to give them a boost when the time comes, i.e., they expect to inherit their parents' wealth. In total, some 25% of millennials aged 25 to 34 expect to receive help from friends or family, according to the survey. Still, 3/4 said they expect to receive less than $10,000, which might not be enough to close the gap. It was not all bad news. The study found that some young people, if not nearly enough, may be saving more. On average, millennials who make more money save a smaller share of their incomes. Those making less than $24,000 saved about 10% of their incomes, for example, while those making more than $72,000 saved just 3.5%, according to the survey, which is kind of odd, isn't it? Also, more millennials are finding a way to buy homes than a few years ago. First-time buyers have accounted for 42% of buyers this year, up from 38% just 2 years ago, and 31% at the lowest point during the recent housing cycle of 2011, according to Fannie Mae. Still, a first-time buyer is anyone who hasn't owned a home in the past 3 years, a group that could include older people as well. Unfortunately, for the generation that represents America's future, the bad news dominates, and as the Wall Street Journal concludes, many millennials face daunting odds. Less than 30% of 25 to 34-year-olds can save enough for a 10% down payment in the next 3 years, while just 15% could save that much within a year, according to the apartment list survey. Of course, there is a loophole. As we reported last week, programs are being rolled out to allow first-time buyers to purchase homes with even smaller down payments. In fact, none other than the bank, which had to be bailed out less than a decade ago, and the one that I settled with on my mortgage, Bank of America, recently announced intentions to slash down payments to help millennials. Speaking to CNBC, Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan, the proud owner of Countrywide Financial, that old turd, said that his mission is to reduce mortgage down payment requirements to 10% for traditional loans. Used to be 15 and then 20, or 20. Used to be 20. 10 per CNBC. But I think at the end of the day is people forget that at different points in your life and different points on what you're doing in life requires you to think about housing differently as a place for you and your friends, as a place for you and maybe your significant other, and then ultimately a place for family. That drives change. And so, yes, it's taken more time. And we talked a lot about this, 4 or 5 years ago, that if you require a 20% down payment, it takes just a little more time to accumulate 20% than it would 3% or none, which is what the rules were for a short period of time. So our goal, going back to regulatory reform, is should you move the down payment requirement from 20 to 10%, wouldn't introduce that much risk, he says. Of course, as we pointed out last week, we are certain that Moynihan's sole purpose for wanting to lower down payments is to help those poor millennials living in mom's basement, and has nothing to do with the fact that Bank of America and Wells Fargo has lost a ton of fee revenue to government-backed loans that only require a 3% down payment. Why not? Gradually destroying lending standards worked out really well the last time around, didn't it? But we digress. So here is a 33-year-old data analyst, Gina Fontana, who explained her problem so simply, even a Fed president could get it. She said she has saved a bit for a down payment, but doubts she will use it anytime soon because home prices are so far out of reach. She added that she had saved enough for a 10% down payment on a $200,000 house when she was living in Philadelphia, but couldn't buy anything in the neighborhoods she liked. So, now she has moved to Berkeley, California, and said the area's home prices, where starter homes can go close to $1 million, makes the odds of buying a home essentially zero. Quote, "I don't see that ever happening," she said. "I just prefer to travel." Which is why it's only a matter of time before everyone throws in the towel on the housing recovery and Goldman Sachs launches its first millennial travel collateralized security product and its synthetic derivative to go with it, of course. So, what was I going to say? She said she had saved up for 10% on a $200,000 house. All right. So, she moves to California, of all places, to find out it's even more expensive. It's beyond expensive that I'm so shocked right now. I don't think I'm ever going to do it. I'm just going to freaking travel. I'll just travel the world. Or maybe this country. And when she says she only had a 10% down payment on a $200,000 house, that means she's got $20,000 sitting there. That's a good down payment. But when she found out, it's kind of near the ghetto. No, I'm not going to do that. That doesn't make sense. I don't want to live in that neighborhood. So what is her other option? Become poor. Just become poor and sign up on a list for HUD, affordable housing, HUD, and you'll be able to move into that $2,000 or not that much, $1,600 a month rent right next to the other people who make a lot more money than you. When at one point in time that $200,000 you were looking at was exactly the neighborhood you're in now, but now they're going for $350, and you can't afford that. But now that you're on HUD, you only have to come up with $400 or $500 actually, so it works out even better for you. But then you're going to find out a guy like Trump all of a sudden becomes president. And one of his budget plans is to completely gut a lot of that additional funding going to HUD, which means there might be a whole lot of people getting notes in the mail We tried to help you. We hope we were able to help you during the time we did. We hope that you did not bring riffraff into the middle-class households, like Jason before. And we're here to tell you at the end of the lease, you got to go. Matter of fact, you got to go early because government money is running out. Could you imagine hearing breaking news? The Democrats and Republicans are fighting over the budget, kick the can, and the budgets are now it's kicked in. There's no funding to continue helping pay the rent on these HUD recipients, and they're getting actually letters from the renter that they're going to kick them out, but it's actually not them getting the letter, it's the federal government getting kicked out. They had to call the sheriff's office to kick the people out of the house, but it was on behalf of the federal, but they're actually kicking the federal government out of the house, so to speak. Does this sound like a Banana Republic? Because that's the kind of thing that could happen. They're going to gut the money anyways, so the people are going to have to leave the house. And I'm counting the days down. Hurry up with that one. I am tired of the riffraff and the trash on the ground and the trash in the community and the empty water bottles. This is a nice neighborhood. We're middle class. We live like middle class. We don't live like riffraff. So we don't want riffraff moving in here, bringing riffraff with them. So I'm counting the days. Please, Mr. Trump, get it done. Take care.